Welcome to the Leap Health in the Workplace podcast. Leap Health empowers individuals and organisations to improve both their physical and mental health. In this podcast, we explore innovative, bespoke, proven health solutions that will improve your personal and professional productivity and happiness. I'm Anna Reddy. Let's get ready to make small steps to Leap Health. Welcome to the podcast today, and what a way to start 2024 with the awesome Ben Coomber. And I'm sure going to the end of 2023, you were reflecting on your successes, what you could have done better, where you want to go in 2024. And we have got the expert with us today, the awesome Ben Coomber. So today's podcast is titled Accelerating High Performance by the awesome Ben Coomber. So welcome to the podcast today, Ben.
Hello, thank you for having me.
As I said, we're welcoming the awesome Ben Coomber. He's a coach, speaker, and #1 best-selling author of How to Live an Awesome Life. Ben started his awesome life journey 18 years ago after his physical transformation. At the age of 18, he was obese, unhappy, unfilled, and wanted to change. Maybe right now you're thinking, I want to change, and often it's that need to change that drives someone to do something differently. Fast forward to today, he's living in great health and abundance with a true sense of freedom. As I said, Ben is an award-winning coach, is #1 rated podcaster, public speaker, entrepreneur. His companies are Awesome Supplements and the BTN Academy. He's travelled the world, he's a dad to 2 young girls, and he's on a mission to help others be awesome and live their most awesome life possible. Aside of all these credentials, though, it's also amazing to have Ben on the show today as a first-hand, accredited through the BTN Academy, and I've got lived experience of the opportunities that it opened for me from both a personal and professional level. And we did actually explore this 3 years ago on Ben's podcast, which also made me realise what an authentic person that Ben is. He wasn't just out there looking for famous YouTubers. He gave someone like me a chance 3 years ago when I was starting out as a rookie in this area. He also eloquently puts in his book, life is more than just Rolexes, fast cars, diamonds, and endless exotic holidays. It's about longevity. It's about being a high performer, really defining what high performance means to you. And it's being able to work in a way that doesn't stop him missing time with his wife, girls, family, and friends. It's just about being awesome. So welcome, Ben. I really appreciate that intro was a bit of the tip of the iceberg. So is there anything else that you can add to that before we continue?
I'm not sure we've got time to add to that. No, it was great. It was eloquent. It was ego boosting. No, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Super. So I'm really excited for where this conversation is going to go today. We've got a bit of an outline, but we're really going with the flow. So we're going to see where this takes us. So to give our listeners a little bit more insight into your world, Ben, tell us a little bit more about your journey that brought you to being Ben Coomber today.
Sure. So at the age of 18, I was obese, unhappy, had many health problems, been bullied all my sort of teen years at school, and found myself auditioning for drama school, which is quite challenging. It's quite hard. It's quite a lonely pursuit as well, or it was in the environment that I was in anyway. And I kept getting knocked back, wasn't being successful with the auditions. And there was a point where I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, perhaps it's me. Like perhaps not just me as in me auditioning and what I'm trying to do, but me as a person, the way that I look. Am I the best version of myself? And I, hand on heart, said no. So I started the journey of trying to lose weight, improve my health. And I've done it before, but unsuccessfully. Anyway, I started and again was pretty unsuccessful, started running a bit, started to eat healthily in my mind and wasn't getting any results. And long story short, had an argument with my brother one day. I'm the older sibling of 4.5 years. So there's a background and trend there of that. But anyway, he was like, look, you're putting in all this effort and you're getting no return. What are you doing? And I sort of, again, had this sort of face up to mirror moment. And I was like, right, I'm putting in all this effort, but it's not actually working. Why isn't it working? Where do I have to go to solve my problem, which was weight loss, improved health, improved fitness. So I joined a gym, local gym. Was very fortunate to get a really good trainer. He said, look, read this book, start doing a bit of this, start doing a bit of that. I literally got the book, read it within a week, and 6 months later or 8 months later, I'd lost 5.5 stone, transformed my body, my mind, and that just built momentum. And I was like, if I could do that in 8 months, physically and mentally, what more can I do? And that then spurred my obsession with self-improvement, personal performance. I then started to explore what more athleticism looked like because I've been into sports my whole life, started to really enjoy the gym, started to see the value in building muscle and stuff. And it just went from there. And I left the acting industry, then became a personal trainer, then went to uni a bit late and studied, started to work in sport and started to do lots of different jobs to see where my path wanted to take me. But in 2008, I saw sort of the rise or the start of the rise of the online world. And I was like, this is interesting. Also had a passion for traveling. So I was like, it'd be pretty cool to travel the world, have a business, do what I want. So that's when the entrepreneurial journey started. Went into the online space, then went full time online in about 2012. That was online coaching with nutrition and fitness and weight loss. And then that transformed into education around 2015. And then I started a supplement company in 2016. But underpinning all of this is my desire as a coach to help people be the most awesome version of themselves. And I know that that is multifactorial. There's many things that go into that, but ultimately it's a life that is fulfilling, rewarding, and you are turning up every day as the best version of yourself.
Wow, incredible. And such a diversity in your pathway. But in a way, I just had a really, really brief conversation before we started recording. And I heard you say creativity and visionary. Those two elements really stood out in that you spotted changes that were happening in the environment and applied that creativity to maximize those opportunities. And thinking right back to the start of that, it's quite interesting to think how it would have all panned out if you didn't actually take some ownership and empower yourself to make a change. And often people just think, this is life, this is what's dealt to me. However, you thought, you know what, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to stay my own journey. And it might be interesting to think, you know, what would have happened if all those years ago you didn't decide to stay your own journey?
I think it's very easy to look at your journey or your situation, and compare it to other people's and think, it's harder for me because this has happened in my life, or this is my situation, or this is the card that I've been dealt. And I could tell you kind of my story of how I felt I came around to all of this. And you might sit there and go, it sounds harder than my story, or it sounds easier. Like, it doesn't matter. All we can do is accept what is the card we're dealt, the body that we have, the environment we have, the friends and family that we have, and navigate the best path forward. Because some of that can change, a lot of it can't change. So you have to leave that behind, accept that change is essentially a different mindset and belief system away, because change only becomes possible long term through us changing our belief patterns. We'll change short term by changing through pain or desire or the pursuit of pleasure, but it's more through pain that a lot of us change in really meaningful ways. But long term, we have to start to believe that we can be and that we are a different person, and that we don't have to live through our experiences of the past, our view of ourselves. So the quicker we can break away from that and unidentify with our past, the easier the path forward is.
Absolutely, yeah. Embracing who we are and embracing that change and being able to push ourselves forward is incredible. So thank you. And through that as well, you know, I've really heard that authenticity come out about who you are, and you've in the podcast that you've delivered as well. Your career has been so successful, and yet you still show that authenticity in terms of the times that have been difficult in your life and then how you've overcome them. And often what we see with high performers is that maybe they're just talking about all the highlights and sometimes miss out how they've actually overcome those obstacles as well. but that's something that really comes out in your work, that you do recognise those obstacles, but share the solutions as to how you've overcome them to be successful. So thank you for sharing that. So we spoke a little bit about, at the beginning of the podcast, people might be thinking about, what am I going to do in 2024? How am I going to drive that change? How am I going to push myself a little bit harder to that future that I want? And I'd kind of titled this section around goal setting, but I did hear something only the other day that we shouldn't be really defining things as goals, but more as our purpose and our meaning. So maybe we might tweak this a little bit around, how we're pushing ourselves more towards our purpose and our meaning. And recently heard your 6-step process, Ben, online, which is available to anyone to listen to on YouTube, about how we might set those goals or those purposes aligned with what we value in 2024. So over to you, Ben. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear that.
So before we talk about goal setting, I'll go into the word purpose and kind of meaning. I think the way that we frame those terms is really important. I think language around terms is very, very powerful because they take on different meanings very, very quickly. So if I was to say to you, what is your purpose? You'd probably be like, that's a big question. Like, that feels like a big question. It feels very singular as well. Like, what is my singular purpose as a human on this planet? Very hard to define, and I would argue impossible. But if I said to you, Anna, what do you find in your life brings you purpose or feels purposeful? And we turn those words into like moving words. The ing, we put the ing on the end of it. What do you find purposeful? Or, I said ing, but you know what I mean? Like there's a onwards part to that word now because of how we've like framed it. So it might be that, the things that bring me purpose or I find purposeful are my work. Really enjoy my work. I love engaging with clients or whatever. Really enjoy helping with my kids' sports teams. That brings me a lot of joy. Really enjoy X. And then all of a sudden we have like several things that we can start to say, okay, cool. And then if someone's unhappy, the chances are they might set goals around ideally what they find purposeful, but isn't currently purposeful in their life. So work's a good environment. You might be in a job and the job's kind of like so-so. It's like, okay. And it's like, cool. Well, you're not finding your work very purposeful at the moment. So how about we kind of address that? And actually your life will then be more fulfilling and feel more purposeful because more of the buckets that you get kind of meaning from are being satisfied, are full, and it feels like you're spending your time well. People hate wasting time. Like when you like think about it, and it's one of the reasons people, I'm told, commonly change jobs because their commute is too long. So that's a time thing. Like they're wasting time on the commute. You're sitting in your car, like, why am I doing this? Why travel an hour when I can travel 20 minutes? So why waste time 8 hours a day doing something that is not purposeful? There's many reasons you could change that. Most people think, well, I'm not enjoying my job, so I need to get a new job. No, you don't. You could challenge the current job and the environment that you're in. So you could change the team dynamic. You could ask for a role restructure. You could ask for different KPIs. You could ask for a different, like special project that you work on, like in a small part of your hours. You could try and push for a promotion. You could actually try and push to see change in your department or your team or your company because it's got a bit stressful or stale or whatever. There's lots of things you can do, but most people don't like rocking the boat. Well, if the boat doesn't get rocked, the boat doesn't sail smoother. So we need to have the confidence to actually rock the boat now and again to put it on a more meaningful course. So I really think it's important to expand and open those words because they can feel quite isolating and singular. And it's like we are then forced to think of this meta purpose for our life. But life is always moving. Things that you find purposeful now might change in 2 years' time. Like what I find purposeful now is changing now. I'm a dad and I've got 2 kids. Like life is very, very different. So those words need to change and they need to kind of evolve. So come into the goal setting process that kind of fits in and around that. For me, with goal setting, there's a few ways people can quite often slip up. So this 6-step process, you've got the goal. So what is the goal? Now, the first thing within that of goal identification is being really honest as to whether that's your goal or not. And what I mean by that is it's very easy to be externally stimulated or inspired by other people because we have the online world now. So if you scroll Instagram, let's say you scroll Instagram for 15 minutes, what's the chances that you took on about 120 different signals, messages, and pieces of inspiration from that scroll because of how social media works? So now we're getting inspired by what one influencer's done, what one company's selling, what Dave, our mate, is doing, or what Cindy has done at the weekend. And then all of a sudden, our goals become an amalgamation of inspiration that we've seen. So goal setting has to be an internal process. And quite often, for me, I would always start with the word pain or friction. Where in your life right now is there pain or friction? 2024, the start, January, it might be my weight. A lot of people might be unhappy with their weight. Cool, great pain point. Let's solve it. So that's the goal, weight loss. What do we need to do? And we just need to make sure that's a goal that they really want, because sometimes people kind of say it, but then they're not really willing to do the work. And the thing is, we just need to be honest about that. Just be honest about why you want to achieve your goals, and, be brave to say that to yourself and to say that to other people, because that creates a smoother path forward. So we have the goal, the why that attaches to that goal. And then there's the method. What's the method that we need to get there? There's many methods to achieving weight loss. But ultimately it's all, rounded up into eating less and moving more. There's just a bazillion different ways to kind of achieve that kind of scientific outcome. After that, you need to look at the support needed. I think everyone needs support on a journey, whether it's just your partner just supporting you, or whether you need other people on board, like you need a coach or a book or a program, or you need to go to a community group, or you kind of need help. Also, when you get support and help, you get perspective, and that's really important. People can then share how they might have tripped up on that journey, and like, oh, watch out for this because this happened at week 10 when I did this. And it's like, oh yeah, great tip, man. I can kind of avoid that, and I can make the process a lot smoother and a lot more rewarding. Now, the 4th step, and this is really, really important, the roadblocks that you're going to encounter. So weight loss, this is a great example. If you're going to embark on a weight loss journey, I bet 99% of people have tried to do that before. They've lost a bit of weight and they've gone back to their original weight again. Cool. So before we start this time, why don't we identify why you didn't lose weight successfully last time? That's the roadblock. And it might be that you started to really not enjoy the restrictive nature of the diet, and you kind of got bored with the diet because you were bored of eating the diet that you put yourself on. Or it might have been that you felt you couldn't go out and enjoy yourself with friends and family. So you're like, screw it, like I'm going to stop the diet. This isn't enjoyable anymore. Or it might be that your mood got really low and you started to not perform as well at work, and you're like, God, this diet thing's tough. It doesn't matter what the roadblock is. We just need to identify it. So we don't go on the same journey and do the same thing and get the same result, because then we can change the method. So it's like, right, well, if last time you felt overly restricted by your diet, let's do a less restricted diet. Don't go on the same diet kind of format or template that you did last time, because you ended up not doing it for very long. So let's choose a different approach. And that's where you might get different support and a different perspective to say, cool, coach, this happened last time when I did my diet. Please, can you help me avoid that thing in the first place as I start? So hopefully this time I reach my goal weight rather than not reaching my goal weight. And then point number 5 is kind of the check-ins and celebrations. I think it's really important to have micro milestones. So you're not sort of sat there going, oh my God, I need to lose 4 stone. This feels like an absolute mountain. It's like, right, every week we're going to try and lose 2 pounds. That's it. Every week, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. At the end of every week, give yourself a high five, credit yourself, look yourself in the mirror and be like, we did that. Guess what we're going to do this week? We're just going to do the same again. We're going to keep going. And we're enjoying it because I'm changing as a person. I'm enjoying that change as a person. And then the 6th thing is the realignment when we reach the goal. No goal is ultimately finished, because becoming a better person is a journey. So if you lose weight, The new goal is to become a person that can maintain that weight. That's your new goal. It's not done it, completed it, go back to normal, because that's when all our old bad habits come back in. So sometimes that's an even harder process of losing weight, because it's like, actually, I've got to make some of these habits really stick and learn how to be disciplined and consistent and buy into that. Otherwise, I'm never going to long term have this goal, for myself as a new character trait.
Super. Completely makes sense. It's so logical, such a logical process, and just really makes sense. There's lots of things that we can really pick up on, and that. And first of all, on around, it's really got to be specific to you and your world. And as you said, Ben, your world changes, your purpose changes over time. So, for instance, your training, the amount of training you can do might change if you've got other commitments going on. So it's got to be really, really specific to you. And love that as well around, getting that support network. And the people that don't encourage you to do things which are going towards your goals, maybe the people you don't want around you. They might seem like they're the people that support you, but if they're not supporting you achieving your goals, try and get the people around you that champion you and work through those pain thresholds. Often people say, let yourself off the hook, but the people that really care about you understand where this is getting you and will help you go through that pain threshold to be a better person and create that change. So thank you,
Definitely.
Ben.
Just on that, because I think this can be maybe a really big sticking point for a lot of people, is the dynamic of a relationship and how that can be problematic in the process of change. And what I mean by that, and in my experience, this is definitely more an issue, if I was to be honest, of my experience with a coach, this is more of an issue with females rather than males. Generally, because I find that a female will be someone that gives to others before they will give to themselves. And a man, I find, will generally be a bit more kind of, I'm doing this, like everyone else just kind of like watch out the way. And the reason why that can become problematic is we all have to learn to stand up for what it is that we want and ask for the right kind of support in the right way. So if we think about the dynamic between some relationships, a couple, for example, might go out a lot at the weekend, and they might do that because of one side of the couple. So let's say, for example, the man's like, oh, we're going out with so-and-so on Friday night. We're going out with so-and-so on Saturday night. And then we're going to go for brunch on Sunday. And it's like, that's not a problem per se, but it can be quite challenging if someone wants to lose weight to do all of those things, pick really smart choices on the menu, not eat too much. But then that other person might be like, well, how do I navigate this? Because, my partner really enjoys this. And, we've been doing this for years, and it's just like the way that we live our life. Another example might be loads of couples, open a bottle of wine and share it a couple of times a week. Well, we need to have the conversation, and a person within the couple needs to sit down opposite the other person in the relationship and say, hey, look, I've got this goal. I really want to achieve it. I know I've not been that successful in the past, but these are some of the reasons why I haven't been that successful. And I really need your support. That habit that we've got where we open a bottle of wine on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. Like, can we not do that for a bit? Can we just find a healthier cadence? Because I struggle to say no, and I know you really enjoy it. And do you know what? I think it would just be a good change. Or, instead of meeting up with the couples for dinner, what if we invite couples out for a long walk? And we pick a countryside spot, we all park up, and then we go for a cup of tea afterwards or whatever. So there's loads of ways that you can compassionately approach the situation. But what the other person or other people need to see is how important this goal is to you. Otherwise, they won't support you. So many of us have gone, oh, I'm going to lose weight. And then not really much changes. And it's all a bit of a fluid goal. And, the people around you know that you're not serious. So they're not going to support you because it's one of those flimsy goals that have, popped up now and again. You announce to the office, oh, I'm losing weight. And then 3 days later, you're like, oh yeah, I'll have this. Oh yeah, I'll do the cake run or whatever. And it's like, well, hang on a second. You said So you're breaking your own rules. People only take you seriously when you become the primary advocate for what it is that you want and bring them around, your table in a productive and compassionate way. So anyone listening that has struggled in the past with that, please be strong and have that conversation. And it just needs to be done compassionately, openly, with love. And I bet you people rally around you.
And that's a wonderful example of foreseeing those roadblocks along the way and how you're going to overcome them. Which point was that, Ben? Was it number 4? Number 4, which is foreseeing those roadblocks so that you're already seeing what potentially could be the challenges, but being totally honest about why you're doing this. And also remember, you suggested maybe women are a little bit more susceptible to this, and I can hear people listening now being like, yes, they're juggling this and that. But actually, just remember, you've got to fasten your own seatbelt first. And if you don't prioritise that it's for your own health and performance, then that will impact the other people around you. So although they might not be supporting you, actually you're doing them a favour by making yourself a better version of yourself, because you can help more people around you as well. So really, really, really good point. So I really encourage you to foresee those roadblocks and have those challenging conversations. So moving on now, a little bit around work-life balance. And this is something that has really come out in your podcasts and online as well, particularly since you've had children, that you're really creating that work-life balance. And as I said in your book, you said that it wasn't all just about materialistic things, it was about having time with your family. And recently we had a few friends round, and we were talking about work-life balance, and someone came out with a comment and said, he had to change his career because you just can't have a successful career and be a good family person. And I thought, I'm not quite sure about that. I think you can have both. What are your thoughts on that, Ben? And how do you think you achieve a good work-life balance?
Well, firstly, balance or work-life balance is going to mean something to everyone, or differently to everyone. So work-life balance for me, if I was to just use myself as an example, and then people can define what it means for them. Work-life balance for me is making sure that I can be present with my family at the level that I want to be present. So weekends, quality time in the morning, the evening, I've got the flexibility to go on days out. 2 weeks time, we're going to get a bit of a heat wave. Cool. I'm going to take a day off work and we're going to go and do this. And you've got that flexibility to just enjoy life. Then outside of that you are not imposed by your work and expected to bleed the line. So if I say to my work environment, I work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, 320 days a year, or whatever the number is. Outside of that, I'm unavailable. I'm a family man, and I do these things. The problem is so much of the workforce outcomes are defined by time invested, and for me, that happens with some jobs, because some jobs are on the clock and a certain amount of things need to be done. But for a lot of people, what we're actually looking for in a job role is performance. We want them to do certain things in a certain way to get an outcome. So that's where we have KPIs and, metrics and stuff. So if I was a salesman, for example, and my target was to bring in, 300 grand's worth of business a year, and I could do that on 20 hours a week, should my boss be happy? And if I can do that and have a really good work-life balance, for me, I've kind of won. Now, I know that's a slightly different example outside the topic of work-life balance, but it's kind of a bit of a sort of prod, because I know people in the workplace and a lot of corporates will potentially listen to this podcast, that we need to make sure that we give individuals the ability and autonomy to define performance within their role. So for me, for being an entrepreneur, I say to myself, look, I work 30 hours a week. That's it. And within those 30 hours, I'm going to perform as much as humanly possible. That's kind of my rules. That's kind of my boundaries. I set it, and anything that comes into my life has to fit in and around my rules. I don't work on an evening. I don't work on a weekend unless it's like a paid speaking gig or like something that's quite significant. And I do it periodically once every 4 to 6 weeks. Anything outside of that, is dust. So anyone that is in a high performing role and has quite a lot of expectations around them, the problem is we can often be the downfall, our own downfall, because we will commit a lot of time and effort and expertise to our job because we're trying to climb the ladder. So, we do more, we impress, we get promotion. And quite often that does require a certain amount of time under tension, like just reps in the tank. The more you do, the more you're going to get out. But at some point, we've got to realign that. We've got to say, hang on, this is starting to become unhealthy. I'm working 60-hour weeks every week. I'm tired. I'm not sleeping properly. I don't get enough downtime. I'm now taking away from my personal performance. I don't have any work-life balance. And at that point, you've got to take the power back. Now, it might be that short term, you have to realign expectations with other people because they're used to you being around 60 hours a week and doing all these extra bits. So actually, short term, your performance might go backwards because of how you've been used to working. But it's all about realigning what high performance and work output looks like. So I'm constantly challenging myself because I work about 30 hours a week. How can those 30 hours be best applied? Am I doing the things that I really need to do? Do I have focus? Am I choosing to do the highest leverage task for my business to move it forward? And if not, that's on me, because otherwise, as an entrepreneur, you can easily just work. And it all just feels important. You can kind of make that excuse. So yeah, coming back, work-life balance for me is being able to look after myself. So do health, do fitness, be present with my family. So I look after my kids every morning from when they get up till about 9 o'clock after the nursery run or whatever. And I generally work from like 9 till 3:30-ish. Then I exercise or go for a walk or whatever. And then kids come home at 5, we have tea, we play, all the rest of it. And that's how I've defined things, and I've, built my life around that.
And all those things that you're talking about that you build your life around, that exercise, having presence with your family, enable you, I guess, to be a high performer because you're not resenting the work that you're doing. You're in a good state of energy to be able to be more productive in the time that you're at work. And you mentioned about, that hours versus productivity. And I think this is where we do really need to make a change in the workplace. We need to change that perception. This is what was one of my frustrations in the corporate world for a long, long time, that it was all about the hours you put in, when actually it doesn't make you more productive. On paper, it might look like you're working hard because you're doing all the hours in the world, but just because those hours are going up doesn't mean that your productivity levels are going up as well. And it's so important to be putting those steps in, like you said that you do, in terms of your exercise, nutrition, presence with the people that you care about, to be that top performer. And you mentioned as well those top people high up in the organisation that are doing endless hours. Not only are they damaging their own health and reducing their own productivity for longevity, it's setting the example for the rest of the workforce. So it does have a ripple effect on the way that other people think that they should be working as well. Don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Ben.
So when we look at the goal of what people want when they say, I want better work-life balance, I think it's important to get under the skin of that, because in my experience, people that are sort of credible professionals, high performers, they push themselves in the workplace, they're like middle management and above or something, and they can apply more time to get more output, so they do. Quite often when they say, I want more work-life balance, what they actually want is just not to feel like crap all the time. So they want to scale back slightly, so they kind of got a bit more energy. And the reason I bring that up is I found that when a huge amount of people do try and scale back, or they take more time for themselves, they literally don't know what to do with themselves, because they've built an identity and a set of behaviors around someone that works 60 hours a week. So if you start to say, cool, right, we're going to take more time for yourself, get healthier, you're only going to work 40 hours a week, and you go for a walk, you're going to do this, they kind of feel guilty. They feel that they should be working more, that they're missing out. And their identity has been built around someone that works 60 hours a week. They get purpose from it. They get meaning from it. And this is where people don't change because their identity has been built around the life that they are stuck in. And when they want to change and they want to transfer over, what we need to do is we need to get really deep on the goal and the why, because otherwise we won't get to that outcome. So if someone comes to me and says, oh, I want better work-life balance, I'm like, what does that mean to you? And they're like, well, I just don't want to work as much. And sometimes I will say to them, if you don't work as much, what would you do? And they're like, oh, well, and then at that point, you know that it's going to break. Because what they actually want in that moment is just to feel a bit better, because all the work they're doing is making them feel stressed, overwhelmed, not sleeping properly, all the rest of it. So sometimes actually just improving their habits and their support of their high workload can be the best thing while we learn to realign what it is that they actually want at like a belief and identity level. Because I've just seen it a lot in high performance. They're hard to reprogram because our identity is all built around their work.
Yeah, so true, really true. So what I'm hearing is that to change that identity that you associate yourself with, we need to be strong and fixated on what is our meaning, what is our purpose, and what is our why, to be able to put steps in place to realign that. Create work-life balance.
Yeah, but I mean, there's just so many nuances about it, and this is where feeling uncomfortable is really important. And what I mean by that, and this is an example, and I will share this as a personal example. I've not shared this before. So my character trait is naturally a bit more controlling, a bit more systemized. I have quite a few behaviors that underpin what I want as an individual to get out of my life. And that has inherently made me, paired with my ADHD, a little bit less kind of like impulsive, or no, what's the word? Not impulsive, spontaneous and playful. And when I've been in the care of my kids by myself, sometimes I've struggled to like fill the day with my kids of like playful things to do and like be fun and like be spontaneous with my kids, because kids just want to play and they want to do things. Now, I can imagine there's a good amount of other people that would feel the same way. So what happens is work feels easier than parenting. So you lean away from parenting and you become someone that works a lot and creates meaning around it. And like, oh, I have to work a lot because I provide and all the rest of it. When actually, one of the key things that's driving into that is that individual finds parenting harder. They lean away from it. And I felt that as a parent, but I didn't want to be that person. So I've had to lean into that and be like, right, how do I be more playful? How do I be more spontaneous? How do I, if I'm locked up all day in my house, like how do I, entertain my kids? Like, and like for my wife, for example, it comes totally naturally. Like she's amazing at it. And I try and watch and observe because I'm like, I want to be more of that. And this is the reason I use this example, is because there's so many layers to why we live the way that we do. And so much of it is in our behavior, in our fears, in our environment. And that's why whenever there's friction or fear, you've got to lean into it and go, why is that here? And because if we don't identify that, we will create solutions that do not lead to the outcome that we want to. And then we're like, well, 4 weeks later, I tried to do this thing, I haven't got the outcome. And like, what's the point? And it's because we didn't address the underlying reason. Because if we did that, we would have used a different method or solution to get to the outcome.
I genuinely think that will have been a light bulb moment for a lot of people. How you can steer into your work because you're not always willing to let your mind, like wander with the people that you're with and be as present as you possibly could, because your work life is maybe more structured. Fascinating. I do think that'll be a light bulb moment for a lot of people. Thank you. So now we're going to move on a little bit, change a little bit, and something else that is really, hot and more on the agenda in workplaces now, and really should be higher on the agenda and should have been for a long, long time, is neurodiversity. And the more I'm hearing about, AI taking over, and that can be causing a lot of anxiety and stress for people, wondering how AI is going to fit into the workplace. People are going to have to be forced into a little bit of change. But what I am hearing more so is that AI won't be able to take over those neurodiverse brains as easily as those people who don't have that neurodiversity. And I did look up a little bit online, an article in Euronews with Benjamin Braun, who is the CEO of Samsung. And they suggested that businesses that take on neurodivergent workers can gain a competitive edge, according to Deloitte. And this is highlighting that fostering diversity of thought, different approaches to work, and innovation and creativity, and all those elements of things that really AI is going to struggle to take over with. Benjamin Braun also quotes that many times we rely on people to come up with different, bold, great ideas rather than having sequential thinking, lateral thinking that you get from many neurodiverse people. And there's lots more information coming out to show that companies that do employ more neurodiverse people do have a competitive edge. In your book, Ben, and you also just mentioned it earlier on during this podcast, you got diagnosis of ADHD. But what I absolutely love is the sentence in your book that says it is an asset to your business. I myself have seen lots of traits of ADHD myself, and I think I probably do have ADHD a little bit. But I do really see it as an enabler in my work as well. So elaborate a little bit more on that, about how is it truly an asset to you, and what can other people take from that as well?
So people with ADHD, from my understanding of myself, doing some, research on it, is that will tend to be quite blue sky thinkers, quite visionary, quite random, good problem solvers, just see the world a little bit differently, a little bit abstract. And that's why a very high percentage of entrepreneurs end up being diagnosed with ADHD if they were tested, because again, they just think differently, they go against the grain, etc. So for me, as a business owner, my ADHD allows me to think of new ideas, see opportunities, see problems differently, and that's a very, very powerful asset. Now, don't get me wrong, there's lots of downsides to that as well. Like, I'm always moving forward. I'm poor at the follow-up. I'm poor at planning. I'm poor at thinking of all the cogs that actually have to happen for that to happen, because in my head, it just seems really simple and I can just see it all as like a map visually, whereas other people need it in like a structured flow process so it can actually be delivered. And this is kind of more of like the creative side of work. And that's what the narrative around neurodiversity and AI is. It's like, you're not going to be able to replace these kind of crazy thoughts that, humans see as like patterns in behavior and motion, market trend, people, environment, etc. So it's going to be a very valuable asset. There's so many skills that will be commoditized and wrapped up and swallowed by AI because they can do it faster. They can gather lots of data. And in the workplace, it's happening. So we've just got to embrace it and move with it. And if anyone's in a job where they think, oh God, AI could threaten what I'm doing, we've just got to say, cool, how do I adapt? This is the modern way of living. Just accept and move forward. What I would love to see change, and I only have minimal experience being in the workforce because I've been an entrepreneur for so long, is a company and teams and culture just really valuing various different assets that people have. So people that are brilliantly process driven, that's a beautiful asset. People that have wild creativity, that's a beautiful asset. People that are conscientious and, really think about people and emotion, and brilliant asset. Like, all of these people and characters need to be in a team to think of all the different angles and get to the ideal outcome. Like, even if you had a team of 4, having one from each side of the disc profile would probably be a really positive thing, because you'd all come at a problem or a business or a project very differently, and it'd help shape it. And I think sometimes we will devalue creativity more than kind of like process and I'm just going to say doing the work. I don't know a better word to describe it, but hopefully what people mean, because creativity is quite often, it feels like a lot of hot air. And then there's a moment where there's an idea and you're like, that's it. And actually what goes into that is a huge amount of stewing, data collection, time. Like an idea doesn't just pop out of nowhere often. It's usually it's been stimulated by something, and then that individual's put some thought to it. And for me, sometimes that thought's at 3 a.m. in the morning when I wake up and my brain's like bing, 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 bing. And then I'm like, okay, cool, I'm not quite there. And then you put that idea down and then you go on a walk and then you're like, oh, that idea. And like, I'm working while I'm doing all of that. Like for me, my brain, that is work. Whereas other people, it might be sat in front of a laptop for 4 hours, working through an Excel spreadsheet, putting a process together and da. That is just as valuable as my bit. It's just very different. But we might look at a more creative mind and think, oh, they're just flopping about, doing whatever, thinking of ideas and stuff and drawing pretty pictures. And it's like, actually takes quite a lot of mental, like I get quite tired after a while of being in that state, but that's how my brain works. And I think if the workforce can get to a place where they truly value culturally all sides, and all abilities of the brain and bring it around the table to make a business or a project work, then, you're in a really good place.
Definitely. We've really got to value those different assets that people bring to the table. And sometimes going back to that, it's about making those changes, isn't it? It's about, what do we actually value? As we said before, do we value hours or do we value productivity? Do we value creative thinking or do we value doing, which is something we can measure in metrics? And it's just thinking that a little bit differently and creating that change. So thank you for sharing your experience, and please hope everyone can take away from this that thinking a little bit differently or however you think is valuable. It's just about recognizing the value that you bring. Thank you. We're now going to go on to, it would be rude not to include this in the podcast. We're drawing to a close, but fueling for an awesome future. Ben is the expert on nutrition. So I've got a few fast questions to ask you, Ben, around fueling. Are you ready?
Go for
it. Ready, go. Okay. What 3 nutrition claims do you believe to be utter nonsense and we should avoid?
Probably that any particular nutrient or macronutrient is bad. So fat is bad, or carbs are bad, or sugar is bad, or caffeine is bad. Like anything, it's dose dependent. If you eat a huge amount of something, it's probably going to have a negative effect. What we do, and I know people find this annoying, is we need to be balanced. We need to be moderate. You need a nice amount of protein, nice amount of carbs, nice amount of fat, nice amount of all these different nutrients in your diet. So as soon as you see a claim online that's too bold or like, it can't be as simple as that, like avoid it. Another one might be, like fasting is still becoming very popular, and I see a lot of people do it. People believing there's magic in things like fasting. Like, if I don't eat, I'm burning body fat. Well, you are physiologically, but if you still eat more calories than your body burns that day, you will still put on weight. Like, there's still a calorie balance that exists. And then probably putting certain conditions around weight loss. People love to say things like, oh, well, I can't lose weight because I can't get to the gym, or can't lose weight because of X reason. It's like, well, actually, the number one most important thing if you want to lose weight is to adjust your diet, to end up eating less calories than you burn every day. And there's just loads of ways that you can stimulate that. Of course, you can go to the gym, and that gym workout will burn calories. But you don't have to do that, and you don't. So it's about like releasing yourself from conditions and changing your kind of belief structure around things to actually empower the outcome that you want.
Super. 3 really good points there. I totally echo them and agree with you on our utter nonsense nutrition claims. So thank you. The next one is, what 3 nutrition trends do you think could yield benefits?
Probably the area of longevity will yield a lot of benefit over time. People understanding that we're not just eating for now, we're eating for the next 50, 60, 70 years. Scientists believe that we could easily start to live to 120, 140, but we're not just going to do that through medicine. Medicine's going to help. We're going to have to start to pair medicine with good lifestyle intervention. I think trackers are going to continue to be very valuable in the future, us being able to track health metrics. Like there'll be a point in time where the watch on your wrist will manage so much, we'll be able to like take a personalized vitamin every day that's paired to our watch. And actually, that's another way to be in peak health. And then I think the trend kind of around the value of nature. I don't think the pandemic has helped people in terms of their lifestyle, with more people are working from home and it's quite easy to get into a bit of a routine, and nature is just such a powerful thing. Fresh air, movement, de-stress. Like I wear an Oura ring and I know when I've been outside in like the forest or for a long walk, because literally all stress variables are just down. Like I'm in a super relaxed state. And it's just very overrated. And I think if we were to connect with what makes us human very quickly, a very easy way to do that is to get outside in nature and connect.
It's really not complicated, is it? And as you said, in the world where more people are working from home, it's so easy to fall into those bad habits, isn't it? When there's such simple ones as getting out in nature. Thank you. What are your 3 best fueling habits? What do you do, Ben, that are your 3 best fueling habits?
Number 1 is sleep. It underpins everything. If you want to perform at work, in your family life, in the gym, whatever, you've got to get really good sleep. It's really hard to paper over bad sleep. The second thing is I'm a big fan of eating pretty low carb for me during the day. I'm not saying other people should do that, but what I am saying is you should find a meal structure and a meal balance that fuels you. So if I eat quite high carb meals, I get quite hungry quite quickly. My mental energy is just not as good. So that for me is a very important fueling thing. And the second thing would be the power of exercise, in that, if I don't exercise for a while and then I go to the gym, I kind of like reconnect with that kind of awakening feeling you get. Like, wow, I've just been to the gym. Like, I feel great. Endorphins are running, it just improves your mental and physical health in just so many different areas. So just making sure you get a good sweaty workout a couple of times a week, I think is really valuable for that just ongoing engine in your body that likes to be stimulated through good physical work.
Definitely 3 wonderful habits there. And that one about sleep, interesting fact, which I recently heard, is that they did a study on senior leaders and found that if they were in 45 minutes of sleep debt, it really significantly reduced their executive functioning, which is the decision making, and also those below them reported that they felt less psychologically safe. So you might have sleep debt and think that you're absolutely fine performing, but actually the people around you are noticing changes and feeling less psychologically safe in the workplace and around you as well. So yeah, I definitely put sleep as a high priority. Next one, what 3 things make awesome supplements awesome?
So I suppose framing that for anyone that is still listening, I own a supplement company called Awesome Supplements, and I built that because I was very frustrated with the supplement industry back in 2016. Felt it was very unethical. So I built a supplement company that followed the research 100% on what people need and why. We dose everything according to the research, and then we make everything taste awesome. And that's our simple promise as a supplement company, to fuel people's awesome.
Super. So yeah, I encourage you to check that out on Ben's website, the Awesome Supplements. And finally, what 3 meals will be at the top of your favourites list?
I'll talk about daily convenience because it's probably been the theme of today. I'm a big fan of eggs and how simple they can be for a good meal. Having eggs, and I quite often have it with something quite kind of low carb, so like mushrooms, or I might have it with a bit of cheese on top and then some like fruit on the side or something like that. So I love eggs for kind of the ease and simplicity. Big fan of like nuts, seeds, pairing that with, I personally have coconut yogurt, but pairing it with yogurt, little bit of granola fruit. Again, really simple, really healthy. You're going to get a really, really diverse nutrient intake. If you had 5 different nuts, 4 different seeds in a bowl, bit of fruit, bit of yogurt, like you're having 12 different types of food in a bowl. And we know how powerful that is for your gut health, brain health. So that would be the second one. And then the third thing, if we were to think about nutrient density, probably just the value of like a good fruit smoothie. Doesn't have to be too kind of carby or sugary either. I make mine with like spinach, cucumber, lime, kiwi, apple, and pineapple. Really tasty. You're getting a ton of nutrients. Most people would admit that they don't get enough fruit and vegetables in their diet. So, for example, if you had 4 scrambled eggs in the morning and that green smoothie, you're getting so much good nutrition in one meal, and it's taking you like 5 minutes to prepare, 5-10 minutes to eat. Like, it's not a big ask. So yeah, my tips would come from a place of optimal health paired with convenience.
Convenience and optimal health. So anyone on the listening now and going just to get some convenience, low nutritious food, there's no excuse. Ben's giving you 3 good convenient options there, and put them at the front of your cupboard, because whatever we do is we go for the first thing we see. So make an obstacle course to the junk and put those nutritious things at the front. So thank you so much, Ben. We've come to a close now, but I think it's been really insightful. We've explored lots of different avenues. I've loved chatting to you. Where can people find out more about you or get in touch with you?
Sure. So I am Ben Coomber online, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, BenCoomber. So just look me up. You'll see me kind of headshot with a black background. If anyone did want to try awesome supplements, then you're welcome to try my personal 10% off code. It's Ben10. Just put that in at checkout and you can try our supplements. For people that are looking to support optimal health and performance, I think our Health Essentials bundle would be a really good like starting point. And if you need to enrich your diet with protein, which a lot of us are deficient in, then maybe try our protein. That's our #1 selling product. And then if anyone did want to read my book, it's on Amazon and it's called How to Live an Awesome Life.
And I've got the book here. I can vouch. It is awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. And for anyone listening, if there's something awesome that you've heard in this, something that you've really taken on board, or something that you think someone else is going to love, please do share this podcast. Once again, thank you and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So before you stop listening, I want you to think about how you can make health contagious. Did anything resonate in the podcast? What did you learn that was new? Did you hear something that you thought someone else would love to hear? If so, please share this podcast. Please leave me a review, or please get in touch at anna@leaphealth.co.uk to learn more about how you can improve physical and mental health of individuals and those in the workplace, so that everybody can feel happier and healthier and more productive. Thank you.